The Lost Cryptids Conservatory, where we will shatter your reality to bring you closer to the truth.
Welcome to another episode of the Lost Cryptids Conservatory. Tonight we have with us Jason Kenzie. Jason Kenzie is a professional wildlife photographer. I'll let him give his resume. And he has also recently done, I believe it's his first Bigfoot documentary, I believe. And we'll let him talk about that. So, Jason, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, sir.
Well, I'm very glad to be here. I am an animal photojournalist. I started by doing photography of people's pets, and then I went into more extreme animals and pets that people have. So people around the world will hire me to photograph and interview them on their amazing animals. Everything from wolves to kangaroos to ostriches to monkeys to everything under the sun. And I share the love that they have for them. And my entire life, I've always loved and was fascinated about, the paranormal world, the world of strange creatures such as Sasquatch, Loch Ness, werewolves, and ghosts, everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm. And what about now? So is that where you came with the idea to start this Bigfoot documentary? And this is your first one, correct? Or have you done another one?
Well, I did another one a long time ago, but this one was way more serious and more, it was more fun to do than the very first one.
Okay. Well, I know Ernest Fargo, you know who he is. I know he has some questions for you, so I'm going to let him pass it over to him, and then Dave, and you guys have at it. Welcome, Ernie. You're up.
Well, I'm curious. This is your first one. I watched the documentary. It was great. You were an energetic host of the documentary for sure. It reminds me of Steve Irwin. How many animal documentaries do you have going on right now?
I have
in the pot?
I have over 300 animal documentaries on my YouTube channel and growing. So like all kinds of animals that people live with, and my motto is, if I'm going to interview you on your animal, there can't be any cages, right? I have to be able to hug the animal. And it goes great, except for, the time I tried to hug the crocodile and that didn't go over too well.
I understand the not in cages thing. My dog lived my dog just passed away last winter, about a year ago now. I've been reluctant to get another because that one was so totally personal to me. But I tell you what, it
Well, everyone has a story about their pet, and I bet you loved your pet more than anything.
Well, I guess my point of the bring that up was that she was never caged. She never had a chain. From the point she was about, I guess, about 8 or 9 months old, she never seen a chain after that, and lived to about 15 years and was like the greatest pet ever. But that was without any. She was able to roam in the wilderness. I guess she really never left far from the house, but also, just stayed around the house and never did. But she didn't have cages. She didn't have a chain. She didn't have anything like that. She lived her whole life free. That's my point. I guess to your what
Yeah,
you said earlier.
yeah. Well, that's great. I think animals shouldn't be put into a cage.
I know Dave mentioned he wanted to talk about our animal. I guess it's the perfect time, Dave.
It is Squatch Dog. We need to talk about Squatch Dog because he's our favorite animal, and he is a group member and a fellow researcher. And we have some really unique stuff going on with Squatch Dog. Go ahead, Chad.
What do you mean? Go ahead. It was all your idea. You tell it. It was your idea. The whole Squatch Dog idea was all you.
He's right there. So yeah, get him up.
Squatch Dog has a Facebook page, I guess, right?
Yes, he does, and he's we're starting to make videos for Squatch Dog. What we've done is he goes out on the hunt with us, and we have a GoPro that we're attaching to him via an underbelly chest protector, and we're going to be taking video of him going out there. Oftentimes, he runs ahead of us, and he'll go out there. And my thought is he's probably going to see something far long before we do.
Oh, he's definitely with wolves.
So my advice to you is if you're going to put a GoPro on him, you want to get the newest GoPro because it has the most advanced stabilization built in.
Yes, you're exactly right.
The dog running.
Check that out.
It's going to be shaking up and down, but with the new GoPro, it's like smooth like butter.
We have a GoPro 8 on him.
The GoPro 8. Yeah, is that the newest one is what? The GoPro?
The 9.
9. But the GoPro has the same stabilization.
Right.
That way, when he does get picked up by Sasquatch and carried off, at least you can see it on your phone and knowing where he is. I'm like, nice knowing you there, Squatch Dog.
He'll die doing what he loves.
But actually, maybe he might end up being a Sasquatch's pet.
Awesome.
That's hilarious. Yeah, you know what? We do have the newest, or like the 8 on that dog now. It's great footage. It really is. I love, it's just fun to watch, regardless of what if there's a Sasquatch there or not. The footage is great to watch. But a dog can get up on other animals a lot quicker and a lot more efficient than most humans could ever dream of. And it's just great footage to watch, and it's interesting. I haven't seen it done before, and this Squatch Dog thing is actually pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, that would be great to see. In fact, in the chapter 2, because I'm producing another documentary on Sasquatch, and this one is going to feature a white wolf. So I'm going to talk about how dangerous it can be in the forest with bears and coyotes and cougars, lynx, bobcat, and also wolves. And right now it's winter time, so all the bears are hibernating, but there's still wolves out there. And so I'm going to talk about that because sometimes when we do the howls, we get back coyotes and sometimes wolves will actually howl back.
Yeah, absolutely. You get all kinds of howls in the woods, and hopefully sometime you might get a Sasquatch. We did a little adventure in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan last year. Chad was there actually. We had a wolf coming in every night. It was a strange kind of. I've never had anything like that happen in all my years of backpacking and like wilderness trekking. To have a wolf come up to a camp. Typically they're you know pretty scarce around humans. But this thing came up around the camp. But not only that, but one night we actually got thermal of a cat coming up to camp, and
Wow.
also got the tracks. We casted those tracks. I mean, we got the wolf tracks that casted. In fact, I have those right here.
Well, you never know. Maybe the wolf was a spy for Sasquatch and was sending in the wolf.
Maybe.
How much have they been drinking? Uh, you know,
In camp.
Now the funny thing is, I spent 10 days there, and it was the Hiawatha National Forest in the Upper Peninsula of the UP, right in the middle of all that, in some great areas with some great encounters or great, I guess, historical sighting encounters or sighting reports. But it never did find any sign of Sasquatch or Bigfoot or anything else, but did find, wolves coming to camp, nearly every night we were there, or a wolf coming to camp every night we're there. And
I actually saw it. I actually saw it at like 3 a.m. I went out to relieve myself. My dog's sleep in the tent, and this thing comes walking up and just looks at me, takes a couple another steps, and I'm relieving myself, and it's just staring at me, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now what? And it just turned around and just slowly meandered off.
Yeah, I got here's the casts of what he's talking about there.
Yeah.
These are, wolf casts of the incident where the wolf came up to us. But a couple nights before Chad was even there, the thing came up, that same wolf, I believe it was a single wolf. It's a strange encounter. I've never had ever a wolf come up to me in a tent ever, but this thing scratched the side of the tent, walked around the other side, and like slapped somehow, maybe its tail, I don't know what, but slapped the other side of the tent just about a minute later. And we found tracks around the campsite, and even like several days later, even had a cougar come into camp, or at least close to camp, where we had nice tracks in the sand from that. It was very obvious, cougar tracks. But in all my years, I've never seen a wolf come up to camp like that. I don't know what the deal was, a lone wolf or whatever, away from the pack. I've seen them at a distance, in like the northern reaches of Canada and stuff, but never in Michigan have I ever seen a wolf. That was interesting.
There was no howling either, right? The whole time. We never heard wolf's howls.
No, just tracks. The one was stalking around the camp.
we had
One
a
was
case,
single wolf.
we had a case up here in the Rocky Mountains a couple of years ago where a family was tenting in a campsite, campers all around, and a wolf came into the tent, and I think it grabbed the kid, and the dad was having a tug of war with the wolf and the kid, and he's screaming and panicking, and some other campers that were next to him come running over, and they start punching and kicking the wolf, and the wolf would not let go, and finally the wolf let go, and I think the wolf was put down, I think later on that evening. But yeah, it was the middle of the night.
Wow.
How's the
That's
kid?
not-
I imagine the kid is probably okay. Doesn't
Probably
like
traumatized for life.
Yeah, doesn't like watching Little Red Riding Hood anymore at all. Just
How did you get interested in Bigfoot?
So what brought your interest into the Bigfoot phenomena, I guess? Well, how did you get interested in the subject itself?
Well, I heard stories of these giant footprints that were up in this lake, and there was a few people that talked about them. So I went up into in the mountains, and I interviewed the eyewitnesses.
Is this British Columbia where you're from?
Yeah, and I went all the way to where these giant footprints were that were embedded in the mud, and those are the ones that are in the chapter 1, Searching for Sasquatch.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Well, obviously, like John Green is from Harrison Hot Springs and a journalist, and that I'm sure. Did you grow up in British
Yep.
Columbia?
grew up, so I know this area quite well, and
So you know the stories.
yes, I know the stories. I am a skeptic because I haven't seen Sasquatch, and I will be a believer once Sasquatch walks out of the forest and kicks me in the ass.
You're open-minded, though, or you wouldn't
Yes,
be
I'm
doing that.
open-minded because we live in such a big world.
And
that-
all the reports out there, I mean, everybody can't be lying.
Well, they just found a new species of monkey in 2021, right? So because of that, if they just discovered a new monkey now, and it's 2021, what else haven't we discovered yet?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
Well,
right.
certainly some of the stories can be compelling. And obviously, being from British Columbia, you've heard lots of stories, I'm sure. How much does that influence your perspective on, I guess, your percentage of your beliefs? What do you think the percentage of
Well,
chance of something like this still living and still
Well,
around
I
today?
do recall when I was younger, and we used to go into the forest all the time when we were kids. We used to build forts. We used to play, army, with the guns running in the
Yeah,
forest.
you can't say cowboys and Indians anymore. It doesn't go over
No,
good.
no. But we
I said it, though.
Yeah. Well, we used
Said it without saying it.
well, we used to go into the forest, and I remember a few times where the bushes behind me would shake like no, and I'd run because I would think it was a bear, and nothing would chase me. So I remember that as a kid, and I think back on those days, and I used to say to my friends, hey, I know you were behind me, and they would say, well, no, I was hiding over there, and I'm like, okay, but I just passed it off, right? Because we're young and kids, and we've had cases where things have screamed at us in the forest, and we just thought it was either a cougar or someone playing a trick, right? We never really thought anything of it, right? So it does make you wonder. But like I said, I need to physically see Sasquatch.
What do you
Okay,
think? What do you
What's
think
that?
What do you think Sasquatch
I want
is?
to put you on the spot here.
Say one more time.
Go ahead, Ernie.
Yeah.
What percentage do you?
Yeah, I can't understand.
Ernie, you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
So I'll answer your question. What do I
my
think
question
Sasquatch
is, what do you think it is? Is it a primate? Do you
yeah,
believe it's like a Neanderthal? Do you think it's a
So
missing
if
link
Sasquatch
paranormal?
is real, I believe that they could be a form of humans that live in the forest that we haven't discovered yet. Just very hairy. I've also heard other stories of them being part alien, right?
So if it was a form of humans, though, would you expect them to, if they were more human than ape, you wouldn't expect to like see some kind of artwork or remnants of fire or something like that, like artifacts, hunting like spears or something like that. If they were more human than ape,
We
Well,
see
you expect
artwork.
to see
We
that?
see artwork, Ernie.
Yes.
Anything
Yeah.
that's created in the woods is their artwork, and they don't need weapons, man. We know that all the stories that go back, they kill with their hands.
I suppose the artwork, if you were like a true believer, would be in the form of like stick structures and stuff like that. But if
Glyphs.
you're not a believer, how do you like make the claim that it might be more human than ape? Would be my question.
Well, what I'm saying is, if they're real, they
If they're
possibly.
real, yes, that's a perfect
They're,
start.
I mean, allegedly, they're extremely intelligent because they can avoid us so easily, right? They can camouflage. They can, they stay away from the cameras. It's so we know they can think, right? You know,
Well,
they're,
obviously, there's a lot of other deer, or I mean, like animals in the nature that can also like avoid humans pretty easily. Even like the white-tailed deer here in Michigan, like after about 2 or 3 years, they become nocturnal animals and very rarely seen. To get a big buck, I guess, if you were a hunter in Michigan, would be a pretty tough thing to do, beyond 2 or 3 year old animal. They'll live to 5 or 7 or 8 years old. The older ones become smarter. And again, if you think about the life of the average primate, you could probably estimate the age of a possible Sasquatch being like 35 to 55 years old at the, based
Mm-hmm.
in, like your on other known primates. So if you had something, that was able to live that long, it's obviously a much more intelligent being. Obviously, the primates are much more intelligent than the deer and other types of animals like that. If they can become that intelligent to completely avoid humans at 3 or 4 years old, what could you imagine? That the survival instincts, that the natural ability to avoid any type of predators or threat at 10, 20, or 30 years old. you know I mean, nature has their natural alarm system going
yeah.
off in the woods. You try to walk through the woods and you have birds chirping, you have the squirrels and any other animals. Like, it's nature's alarm system. So in my mind, I see it pretty easy for something that can live beyond 3 or 4 years to easily avoid human contact.
Yeah, I believe that um, I may not be able to walk up on a Sasquatch. If they're real, they'll come to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think
That
you're
that
exactly
is
right.
how it works. And back to Squatch Dog real quick. One of our theories of why this could possibly be a really good idea is because Bigfoot don't really have the fear of a dog as they would a human. If we come walking up on a Bigfoot, it's going to hide more apt to hide from us. But if a dog does, there's a very high possibility it will stand right in front of that dog, and the dog's going to sense it, and Squatch Dog will look right at whatever is out there. So we believe that for us to be able to get video of a Bigfoot is going to be almost impossible. But I we we increase our chances with a dog that's out
Well,
there that knows what we're looking for.
but I say statistically speaking, wow, that was tough to come out. That was hilarious. But the the chance encounters are the most probable encounters. They are make up the majority of the sighting reports out there are chance encounters. So very few people actually out looking for Bigfoot actually see Bigfoot or encounter anything related to Bigfoot.
Right.
Most of the encounters are chance encounters, and and I think the most probable encounter is a roadside sighting. So the roadside crossings are the most abundant sighting reports out there at this point. So chance encounters are the most probable encounters, and your chance of going out and look for Bigfoot are very improbable, statistically speaking. Well, I still had another trouble
well,
saying that again. That's funny.
Tell them why your little cocktail, Bernie.
Well,
the
it's
one
funny.
thing, the one thing I wanted to capture in my documentary is the
Yeah.
beauty of the nature that's all around us.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to encourage people to go out into the forest and to just have fun. And why not just tell everyone about, big giant monsters roaming around in the forest?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, that's funny.
I wanted to
That's me exactly. I'm a backpacker at heart, and I ran across a bunch of Bigfooters, a bunch of Bigfoot friends that have become like really close friends to me, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a backpacking club most of the time.
Yeah.
We go out in the wilderness and enjoy the wilderness and experience that, take really great pictures of cool things we see and things like that. Most of the time, there's some questionable stuff that pops up every now and then. That's interesting.
Well,
You know,
chapter two of Searching for Sasquatch is going to have a lot of scenic views. There's some really exciting stuff that I have caught on Fleur that I'm itching to show the world. It's unexplained what I caught, but I'm going to be posting the raw footage of what I caught.
All right, we're halfway in. Why don't you tell our listeners? Tell our listeners where they can find you, Jason.
Well, they can find me on my YouTube channel. It's called A Photo Warrior. And you can also, go to my website, which is lifethroughmylens.ca. But, you guys are going to be excited. I imagine a lot of people are going to look at my footage and think, okay, they're going to, explain to me what it could be. We're in snow. I was in snow, and my camera person was, freaking out and wanting to leave because, I'll tell you, I heard children playing, which was funny. I'm in the middle of the wilderness, and for a slight second, I heard children's playing, which was shocking. And I could hear the things like footsteps walking in the forest. And I took the Fleur and I held it, and it was the Fleur that hooks up to the camera, like up to your cell phone. And I'm there looking, and it's all yellow, and I could see a slight reddish tint of something moving back and forth. And I had flashlights and infrared light going too, and I could not see what was in the forest, but yet I could hear it moving, and it was just pacing back and forth. And I'm thinking, well, what is going on with this? It's all yellow, and I stuck my hand in front to see if it was working, and my hand goes all red and yellow, right? You could see and then I flicked back. I'm thinking maybe it was whatever it was going at the same pace. So I thought maybe I had a problem with it was an anomaly with the cell phone, until I see the red moving, and all of a sudden it just shot across the other way, like it just turned and ran off. And I could hear whatever it was moving. You could cracking and walking in the snow and cracking, could not physically see it with my eyes, whatever it was. And I think maybe I had an issue with the camera. That's the only thing I can think of.
did you hear anything at that point?
Oh, yeah. I could hear whatever it was. I mean, those squirrels, they were pretty heavy. Breaking.
You said children.
Well, yeah, I heard children, but children, when I heard children, it sounded like children playing for a split second. And then it stopped, and then I could hear it again, and then I didn't hear it again, and it was far away, like it was off in the forest. And I'm pretty far in the forest. So it was actually, and it was like late at night too. So it was exciting. It was snowing. It was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun. And I can't wait.
You know what? I had to ask about the children for a particular reason. The reason was because a friend of mine told me a story years ago hunting, that he was up in a tree stand, and like just before dark, behind the ridge behind him, something black kept popping up. And as soon as he'd look at it, it'd pop back down and then pop up a different point behind the ridge. And he watched us until dark, and he was getting kind of freaked out, thinking it was a black bear or something kind of stalking him or whatever. He was just weird about that. There are black bear in the area for sure. And then he got down the tree, walked about an 8 mile back to the trail, like a little 4-wheeler trail kind of, and then walked about a 1/4 mile back to the road where his truck was parked. Here's the interesting part. The most interesting part of this whole thing was I was supposed to meet him just after dark, after I got done hunting, about 2 miles away. And I met up with him. He jumped in my car and told me a story that he was up there and saw something black, dipping behind the ridges behind him until dark. He got down out of the tree stand. He walked back to the truck. And he said something stalked him. His words were stalked him all the way back to the road where his truck was parked, about a 1/4 mile, back to the road. And, this guy is telling me he's in his mid-30s at this point. He's dripping tears telling me the story and shaking uncontrollably in my car telling me the story that just supposedly happened, and I guess I didn't know what to think, and I'm like, just telling him, hey, well, let's go into town, let's grab some food and beer up in town, and we'll talk about it, And we parked my truck and walked over to his truck, and the crazy thing is, I heard while walking up to his truck, both of us heard, just inside the woods, where this trail ended at his truck, I heard what it sounded like a toddler, like a 10 or 12-year-old girl giggling or whatever. And I guess a 10 or 12-year-old girl giggling just into the woods. It was the strangest thing ever. But the crazy, it's a very remote area. And there was like 3 miles of wilderness with no cabins or houses or anything, in a straight line in that direction, until the next paved road. And beyond it, it's just no houses anywhere near there either, the next paved road. It was just wilderness in all directions. And the fact that you mentioned the children thing, that's kind of crazy to me, because I heard that giggling plain as day. I can't confirm the story itself, but the giggling I can confirm 100%. It was crazy.
That's a common thing. It's not common, okay, but it's reported with like laughters and giggles in the woods. So it's not that uncommon. But so Jason,
and mimicking as well, mimicking animals, mimicking people. Go ahead.
So now is part 2 done? Have you done all the filming for part 2, or do you still have to go film it?
Yeah, so I'm still filming, but I'm also editing it too. So I have a lot of footage, and I'm just editing it now. I still have some more filming to do. I've done quite a few interviews, and some of them are quite exciting and extremely interesting what they had to say. There's a lady that I interviewed, and she is quite famous. She has thousands and thousands of followers, and she has some books on Amazon that are bestsellers. And yeah, she has a huge following of people that believe in what her beliefs are. And she told me some interesting things about Sasquatch that I'm behind the camera listening to her speak and going, wow, if this is true, what you're telling me about Sasquatch, this could possibly change everything we ever thought we knew about the evolution of humankind. So it was fascinating. So I'm excited to show everyone that interview in the documentary. I just got the thumbnail or the poster back today, and the poster has a big white wolf on it. So it's quite funny how you have a Squatch dog that's white.
We have a really good story from a friend of ours where he has a daylight encounter with a wolf walking with a Bigfoot like it was its pet.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Here in Michigan.
right here in
So-
Michigan.
really?
Hmm.
Would you be able to contact him and ask if
Absolutely, he's a
could
friend
I
of ours.
interview him on maybe
He
on
would do it. He would do it for us, wouldn't he, Ernie?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That would be great. I really would like this to happen. If you can talk to him, I would be. It would great. It would go right into the documentary and into the storyline.
Hmm. And we'd like to add you to some respectable groups, Bigfoot groups, if you don't mind. I mean, we got to ask permission first, but we'd like to add you into a few groups, and you can post your stuff there too. And
That would be great. You can, if you want to grab the link that I gave you and just put it in the, like, ask them if you can put that link in there. That would be great.
So, any group I posted in wouldn't question it. We're all friends. They post their stuff in our groups. We post our stuff in their groups. And
So
We're
even
actually pretty friendly here in Michigan. There seems to be a lot of animosity and like challenges and egos, competitive egos going on in the Bigfoot world, but it's not so much like that in Michigan. It's with a few people, but for the most part, most people get along pretty good.
even though I joke a lot and I like to have humor in my documentary, I do not ever want to make fun of people that believe in Sasquatch. Like because I respect everybody's mindful thoughts and what they believe.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'm open-minded. I do believe there's things on this earth that we haven't discovered yet. I just want people to know that even though I'm joking, I'm not really trying to make fun of people who are, looking for Sasquatch at all, or people that say they've seen Sasquatch.
well, truth be known, you're actually looking for it yourself. So
Yes, exactly. I'm looking for it myself.
You know what? We would have been battling its own dilemma ourselves. We're putting on a Bigfoot conference here in Michigan, and the big dilemma was, to allow what they call woo people and the paranormal beliefs and maybe the mind speak or other more alternate theories trying to explain this creature, and we made a decision to allow that, to allow a diverse group of speakers, a diverse group of believers, I guess, or followers, or however you want to say it, people that are interested in the subject but have diverse views, So we just don't know. Nobody knows exactly what this is, but there's certainly, everybody has a lot of different ideas of what it could be and what it is, and we had to make the decision to incorporate all the views, incorporate all the people, and have a diverse audience.
I really want Sasquatch to be real. I really do. I really want
They are.
them to be real. Like, I want to be able to shake hands with one, so to speak.
That won't happen, but they're real.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, you've got to see one to believe, and then once you see one, your whole world changes. You think about the world a lot differently, and definitely, like going out in the woods, you think about differently as well. Where do you see your series going? In terms of what direction you'd like to take it and see it go as it's produced and it's made?
Yeah, I'm hoping to have probably 4 chapters made, and that's an interesting question that you've asked, because the next one is going to be, I don't want to give too much away, but it's I'm just going with the flow. And when I first started researching Sasquatch, and when I interviewed someone, they would send me into a direction that I didn't think I was going to go. And then I would do more research, and they would send me to somebody else, and I would interview them. And then I would go to that location and do an investigation of that location. Even if it was 10 years later, I'd go and just explore that area and just getting out into the forest. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm hoping that my documentary leads to a face-to-face encounter with a Sasquatch. And if that means for me to walk up to one, I mean, I'm telling you, if I'm on flare and I'm seeing something that is large and either red or white, depending on the settings, standing there, for me to know that it's not something else, I need to walk up to it. And it's
Live or die, huh?
It's going to be dangerous, and I will be scared doing it. Okay, I don't want people thinking that I don't get scared, because I do. You know how creepy it is being in the forest at night by yourself.
Yes.
You know, hearing things walk around and crunching, and you can't really see what it is. You know, so I will. And if it turns out to be a bear, well, the last thing you're going to hear is, "It's not a Sasquatch. It's not a Sasquatch. It's got me. It's got me. I'm being dragged away. Keep rolling. Keep rolling."
That's great. That's
It's
exactly
nice
how I
knowing
feel.
you. I'm going
Maybe
to be with your dog.
somebody's gonna prove it. I hope they do. There seems to be, we're lacking evidence for sure. I mean, concrete proof evidence, but there's so many, seemingly credible stories that, it certainly seems like there should be something for real. And it's not hard to imagine, that maybe a nearly extinct species might be there, just out of our reach and just smart enough to elude us. And
Yeah.
it's I think that's the biggest part of the whole Bigfoot subject itself. It's the exploration and the adventure behind it. It's the wanting to know.
The camaraderie, man. Don't leave
The
that out.
I mean, it's the willingness to go out in the wilderness to try to find out for real if the thing does exist or doesn't.
Right.
And if it does, what if it doesn't? Was it really a waste of time? You get to see some beautiful country and gone on some beautiful hikes and whatever. You've seen some beautiful places. So there's nothing really lost there, in my opinion. I just love to be in the wilderness regardless myself.
Our boss is here, and he's off mute. I do believe he probably would like to ask some questions. Come on, boss. What you got?
In chat,
You got anything, Blake?
Go back to
I think your boss is like part robot.
No,
So-
Blake's a great guy. He is.
kinda.
In chapter 2.
All right, he's back. He's back. Go ahead, Blake.
All right.
What do you got?
Hopefully this will be better. All right, so
It's
going back
better.
to
It
the
is.
subject of wolves and stuff, with like Bill, yeah, that wolf was running with the Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot did a burst of speed and ran away from it. And Bill's kind of convinced that they're kind of in cahoots, or they have some kind of relationship going on.
So
But also, what's your thoughts on dog?
on dogs and Sasquatch? Is that
Dogman,
Dogman?
the Dogman.
Well, I almost think that if these creatures are real, they're all basically very similar in species. It's just like humans. Not all humans are the same, right? You have different, human. So you would have different species of Sasquatches if they exist, right? Dogman may be just another type of species of Sasquatch. Maybe.
I definitely think some of the encounters people are having. My own encounter with, I guess, a Dogman was basically a big wolf, and it got up and ran on two legs. It crossed the road in front of me. I've seen it. Very natural wolf looking. No Frankenstein werewolf type of thing.
So was there a hill? Was there a hill? Because sometimes
No,
wolves, when they
it
run
was
uphill, kind of look like they're running on two legs, right? Because they get the force.
oh no. It was very flat. It crossed and ran into a field, an open field, and we were going 55. We were crossing the road. At first, I thought it was a coyote because of the head, at first. But when it was in the middle of the road, I realized it was massive. When it crossed the road, got into the field, it got up and started running like a human. And my fiance was witness to that, and she's seen it too.
So did you think
It
of
didn't look-
maybe running after it?
No, it got up and ran and was using its arms like a human would, but it was a wolf, a very natural looking wolf that I seen on all fours running across the road and then got up and ran on two legs.
Well, that's interesting.
And
it must,
that's-
it must have ran pretty fast for you not
it
to
was
jump out of the car or out of the truck and go after it.
I had my camera and I had my fan with my girlfriend at the time, fiance now, did not want to stop.
Well,
But it was a pretty big sized wolf, I would have to say, and to me, it crossed the road on purpose in front of the car. I mean, it could have waited. In Michigan, we have kind of a different dogman species going on, or types, I guess, where we have there's a werewolf kind, right? Maybe a misidentified Bigfoot, but we also have natural wolves that seem to be getting up and walking and running around. So there are a distinction between some of these sightings.
Well, certainly we definitely have wolves in Michigan, and certainly there's a long history of so-called, I guess, dogman encounters here in Michigan. The Michigan dogman is a pretty popular term. Maybe you can Google that and get lots of different stories. From what I've seen, a lot of stories seem to stem from a 1986 or 88, somewhere in there in the 80s, a song that was created by a guy named Steve Cook in Traverse City, Michigan. He did this song that talked about some old encounters like every 10 years, the seventh year of each decade, 1887, 1907, and so that's the legend of Dogman here in Michigan. So it's a long history of encounters, at least going back to the 1800s, according to that song. But apparently, the author of the song, the creator of the song, several years later, seemed to admit in at least one article that all the encounters in that particular song were completely imaginary. He made up a song and made up the encounters to go with the song, and everything involved in that is completely imaginary and imagination. But beyond that, there seems to be other encounters also. There seems to be a bunch of other reported events here in Michigan of something wolf-like or the canine type walking on two legs. My personal opinion is I still think that it's, implausible to think there is some type of canine that has evolved to the point of walking on two legs without any type of physical evidence of that, any fossil evidence of that ever anywhere in the planet Earth.
Right.
Okay,
So what do you think,
I would completely
Jason?
agree with you. And
I think it's misidentified Sasquatch, my personal opinion.
Any possibility of a possible Dogman documentary in the future after you get this 4 chapters done? What are you thinking, buddy?
of course. You know what? Of course. I am actually thinking I should do all monsters or all creatures. Try and do a documentary on all of them. Do something that's epic and get out there and interview the people and go out into the field where the dog men are allegedly supposed to be running around and see what we can capture on film. I'm definitely open to all that.
There's nothing better than an open-minded skeptic either. I mean, to do a show, really, be open-minded, but be skeptical. And that makes the best shows.
It's just some great stories. There's some interesting stories. I can't, as skeptical as I am, in my own being, in myself, and that I have to be, that, I still have interest in it. And I still like hearing the stories. And I still like taking the stories and interviewing people. And, I still have an interest in it. But my thing in Michigan, I still think it's a misidentified Sasquatch, honestly. I do believe that there are Bigfoot that roam here in Michigan, and there are misidentified encounters. That's my opinion.
Well, all right, Jason's got to take off here in a few. Yes. He's got to pick up his son. But so Jason and Blake and Dave, you guys want to wrap this up?
So I just want to say in chapter 2, I interview an ex-law enforcement officer that had an encounter with a couple Sasquatches and something else, which is exciting. And she did not want to go on camera, and I had to black her out completely and change her voice. She did not want to go on camera until I said to her, look, I will black you out and I will change your voice for you to tell your story. And the story that she told me was just incredible. I want to believe her. I believe that she saw something, but you guys wait till you hear the story that she has.
Is this dog man or Bigfoot encounter?
It's a Bigfoot. Couple big encounters, yeah.
See, that's the thing with the group here. We seek evidence, photographic evidence, but ultimately forensically defensible evidence that we can put into the hands of anthropologists, somebody like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, in order to try to prove that these things are real. And that is our goal, really, in terms of what we're about and what we're after here. And to have a law enforcement officer, I can tell you, she'd be ending her career probably if you had not blacked her out and changed her voice, because that's how that works, at least here in the U.S.
Well, I want to say thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely. When you come back, I would love to talk with you more, and we can do it in private and do it on the same format. So when you get back, if you're available, message us. I'm sure Blake wants to end this, right, buddy?
Yeah, anytime when you guys are ready, man.
Well, he's got to pick up his son. So.
Thank you, guys, and I will talk to you guys later.
Sounds good.
Take care, Jason, man.
See ya.
Take care, Jason. Great talking.
Nice talking to you.
Yes, you too. Bye.
All right, thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you for another live show, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be doing another show tomorrow with the guest Bill Sowers. He's the one who had the Bigfoot and wolf encounter, so he will be on tomorrow. And he got some other stuff to talk about, and so tune in for that. I think the show will probably be around 10 o'clock for that. And that's about it. So, guys, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. All right.